live event. We are here discussing this week how we avoid intimacy to stay safe in our own self. So, my name is Ailsa Kepi, and I'm curator of the group Women Healing from Emotional Abuse with Power, Passion, and Pleasure. I'm also a coach, somatic coach, working with especially women, but all people that have trouble with intimacy and relationships. So today we're really discussing why is it really hard to get a healthy relationship after an abusive one? How do we go from being this push pull? We want intimacy, we don't want intimacy. We run after someone that when they come close, we run away, or we end up recreating relationship after relationship that doesn't work, that is based on them being unavailable because somehow we're afraid of being intimate. So why does this happen? How does it affect us, and more importantly, how can we work on this? So if you're just joining in, again, you can reach out, you can comment on the video, feel free to invite friends to watch it later. What I really wanted to kind of start with was just something that really struck me about how we end up in these kind of push-pull type of relationships. So this is actually from a book on shame by Gershon Kaufman, who is a PhD and a psychologist. And I really feel that there's a big piece in this whole fear of intimacy piece that has to do with shame. It has to do with how we've internalized that shame, and then, it has a big connection to rage and a big connection to why we push people away. So I just wanted to kind of talk about, so when you're a child and you have a need, so you have an emotional need, whatever that is, you want to be seen, you want to, show your mom or dad something you're proud of, you somehow want to connect with people and you have something you need, a boy lets his dad know of some need and the dad doesn't understand or reacts badly. Then the need begins to convert into a bad feeling. So this struck me as, pretty common. I have 4 children. I'm a parent. I can never meet all of their needs, even well. So, this happens a lot, and it's not an irreversible damage that we do to our kids, but it happens. And so what comes up is, the child or the young person or the other person, whatever age, sometimes thinks, well, there's something wrong with me because my need's not being met. So since the father, as all parental figures, we see them as being infallible and they should meet all of our needs, we begin to feel as a child that we're bad because we didn't get met. We didn't get our need met. There must be something wrong with me, or my dad or mom would have paid attention to me, would have met my need. So later on, let's say your mom or your dad realizes that they've kind of not met your need, and they come to see what's the matter, and the child gets angry, has this rage attack. Because he feels exposed, I'm vulnerable, our relationship, interpersonal relationship is broken. So what, if a parent is aware, they can do things like, I'm sorry I wasn't available before, I'm here now, I want to hear what's going on for you, let me meet your need now. So this would kind of help the child or the young person to have some kind of, okay, it wasn't all my fault, my parent was busy and now I can share something, and it kind of repairs the connection. We've probably all heard of these kinds of parental repair type of things being important. So what happens often though, if we have multiple times where our needs aren't met, often as a child, we still try to get those needs met in a kind of a childish way, even though we don't realize it, with other relationships. And this is what I noticed with many of my clients later on, is that they're looking for this unconditional getting their needs met from an intimate partner, let's say. And if this intimate partner, doesn't respond to their needs, then the person gets this like shame coming up, like I'm not good enough, something's wrong with me, and they sometimes get angry, and either walk away, get angry. You never pay attention to me. You don't understand, whatever it is. We start creating this kind of lashing out thing because we feel vulnerable. And what struck me about this type of shame building, if you will, was that this is kind of what happens in an abusive relationship, especially an abusive relationship where our partner is constantly meeting our needs and then taking that away and making us feel wrong for having needs at a particular point. And so then we feel ashamed that we have needs, and this can be internalized in our own kind of constant. We can then create our own shame without even needing an external source after a while. So when this happens, we are kind of living from this place of shame, of not being enough, of not being having our needs met, of thinking it's not okay to have our needs met. And this actually, of course, you can probably see, would get in the way of having true intimacy, because a truly intimate relationship requires that you're seen and that you see your partner, and that you're sharing that kind of vulnerability. And I mean, I had this actually very, very recently, another layer of shame come up in me. I didn't actually even realize what it was until I was researching for this talk. And, what came up was this kind of huge feeling of unworthiness. And, it started to create what I would say has sabotaged many of my relationships in the past. It created this voice in my head that said, well, you should just do it on your own. Don't go and bother them. They probably don't want you anyway. We were doing this meditation practice together, my partner and I was joining in late, and we discussed it before about me coming in at a later time. But this idea that, I was worthy of coming in and joining and being with this person, I had to work through all my stuff. So I worked through enough to go and sit, and then it ended up still being difficult, and I had to really use all my tools to work through all the triggers that were coming up for me. But I ended up having kind of an emotional release, like tears, and realizing that it was in me. There was this huge kind of wave of not being good enough, not feeling shame, really. And I noticed that what it brought up was this kind of, I should just do it on my own. I don't want to go and be seen by anyone, because what if they reject me? And it's kind of tied in with this whole feeling of abandonment, or this feeling of we're not good enough. So this was a really interesting piece, that it's tied up with shame. I think that comes up for a lot of my clients when they start. This is why also many women that end up working with me are quite successful in many areas of their life. They may be able to have a job, they have some friends, they have some activities, they're a pretty good parent. But when it comes to those intimate relationships, when it comes to intimacy, this is about, into me see, you hear that online, you're going to get seen. And shame is that fear of being seen, because we're seeing ourselves with this shame-based vision of I'm not enough, or I can't have my needs met. And it's actually described as shame as impotence, is an impotence making experience, because it feels as though there's no way to relieve the matter, no way to restore the balance of things. One has simply failed as a human being. No single action is seen as wrong, and hence repairable, so there's nothing I can do to make up for it. This is the epitome of impotence, and I think this is why so many of us feel really helpless and powerless when it comes to relationships, is that we're coming from that whole version of having the shame in ourselves. And the secondary reactions that which go with the shame are fear, distress, or rage, which is typically quite often what we're feeling a lot of the time. And I think that, like I said, these emotionally abusive relationships actually create create shame in the person that they're, that is being abused. They make it okay, then they make it not okay. They take away, they give and take the getting your needs met, emotional needs met, or physical needs met, or financial needs met, or anything. They take that away and make it not okay, and they, or they criticize you for doing that. I'll give you some examples of kind of mixed messages that these types of emotional abusers can do. And again, this is either subconscious or a conscious abuse. Often when we're growing up, if we've grown up with addicted parents or, an alcoholic mother, whatever, these kinds of mixed messages are just kind of status quo for how we've grown up. But we tend to pick our lovers, we tend to pick our intimate partners based on what we had as a child quite often. And so these are some of the things that we might have experienced and would create this kind of push-pull thing. I love you, go away. So the parental figure or even the abuser of any kind at any stage in your life may tell you, I love you, but I don't want you. I love you, I don't want you. And sometimes, a parent that's addicted often or has other issues, it has health issues, whatever, it could be anything. They love you, but they don't want you there. So there's that kind of mixed message. What's another one here? You can't do anything right, but I need you. So that critical parent, like, you can't do this right, you don't do that right, you don't do this right, but you have this sense that they need you. And even you can sense that in later abusive relationships, that pattern of, criticism, but they need you. They need you. They almost need someone to criticize. They need someone to fulfill their needs. So they need you, but they criticize you. You can't do anything right, but they need you. The kind of feeling like, even from friends and family, and this is where a lot of you have posted about friends and family being unhelpful in getting out of these types of relationships. This is why. One of the reasons why is because, your friends or your other people will say, yeah, they did that terrible thing to you, but you have to understand, they have a mental illness. They were drunk. They had an issue. They have an addiction. They have an illness. Of course they're going to do that horrible thing to you. It's kind of a mixed message because, it's like, well, I need to be compassionate to this person, but they did something really hurtful to me. How do I deal with that? It can bring up that kind of mixed message. I'll be there for you next time. I give you my word. This is, the underlying message is, forget it. I'm never going to be there. But their words are saying, I'll do it next time. And these are that, that push-pull, that I will meet your needs, but not right now kind of thing. Everything is fine, so don't worry. But how in the world can I deal with all this? So it's like, those are sometimes unspoken messages, like, I'm fine, I've got it all in control. Narcissistic people often give out this, but underlying that, they have a whole lot of drama going on, and they can't handle it all without you there picking up all their mess. So that can be an underlying theme too. So those are just some of the themes that come up as, that create this kind of, you're not allowed to have needs, or I'm not going to be able to meet your needs for whatever reason, which causes us to go into our shame. And after a while, this becomes an ingrown, we can actually create our own shame just from the memories. And then it becomes a pattern that we get stuck in. So, it struck me as, when we come from this place of shame, we are not going to be able to have the kind of healthy, intimate relationship that we're wanting. So, something like when rage predominates as a reaction to shame, so we get angry with ourselves, we get angry with the shame, we get angry with the other person. All that one is shown when approaching the shame, experiencing individual, is that very self-protective rage. It's self-protective because we don't want to get hurt again. As though we're saying, keep away from me, I don't want to be hurt. So when we feel ashamed, if we've had a need, we've come to our partner, they're being abusive, they haven't met our need, we feel ashamed, then we kind of push away. We say, keep away, I don't want to be hurt again. So we're kind of doing this push-pull thing. In this manner, we protect ourselves, yet we fight against either confronting the inner wound or having the reunion, having the intimacy with someone. So we kind of prevent any escape from our own inner loneliness, which is what I hear from a lot of people in this situation, is that they're really lonely and they want intimacy, but they're, kind of in this fight of wanting to protect themselves and also, stopping themselves reaching out. So this causes like a hopelessness feeling, a depression. And, shame is a really ambivalent thing to be feeling. It's very difficult to sit with. And, it's obvious that to some people, it's obvious that the way to kind of work through shame is have someone see you, but it's really difficult to find that kind of safe relationship where you can be seen and you can see yourself and you can just open up gradually to having that kind of relationship. If we've created a lot of shame in our lives, not always from our own doing, then we have this huge amount that we have to work through. And this is what I offer, and what I think that if you're thinking to work with someone on this, whether it's a therapist, a counselor, a coach, a psychiatrist, whatever, you want to find somebody where you feel safe, or you think you might feel safe if you work on this type of relationship. I actually teach to health professionals about building this type of relationship with someone to help them experience the safety of being able to unpack some of this shame that they've created over many years. So, again, this is what I do with the women that I work with. We create an actual real relationship. I only work with women that I would want to have coffee with because this kind of thing requires a relationship. I've done a previous video on how we heal in the context of relationships. We heal our shame in the context of healthy relationships. So if we can realize that it's our own shame coming up, we can sit with it, we can bear the pain, because it's painful, and it's, it brings up a lot of emotion. If we can learn to sit with that, work through it, and still be seen in all of our messiness, the snot falling down and tears and red eyes and everything, if we can be seen in that and realize, that if we have a new partner that's healthier, can sit with us through that, we can start to unpack this. So, finding a safe person to do this with is really helpful. The interpersonal bridge, and that's what we're building with a coach or a therapist, hopefully, and also with a new relationship. And it's built upon certain expectations that, we come to accept and to depend on. We are learning to expect a certain mutuality of response. And that's, again, something I hear a lot. I want to have an intimate relationship where someone gives back what I'm giving out. And, it's the basis for trust. So learning how to, give and take this type of intimacy, that even sharing, our shame and whatever is helpful. Now a caveat to this is that we share this kind of intimacy with an understanding of boundaries and not putting our emotions on someone else or taking on their stuff. So this is where it gets really tricky, and where, my 8-week program really helps work through all these pieces. So I recommend, if you're interested at all in really delving deeply into each of these pieces, that you work with me, give me a call, book a breakthrough call with me. I offer that 60-minute free call to see if this program might be right for you. But we work through each piece of this so that, we're building, because it all goes together. We can't build boundaries without having some self-esteem. We can't have self-esteem without working on the shame. We can't get rid of the shame without having a healthy relationship. So you can see there's really a lot of pieces with healing from this. And what I find a lot of people where they stumble is that they try really hard with just one of these pieces. They'll have a therapist and they'll maybe have the relationship piece, but they don't have, the experience with working with shame, or they don't have the embodiment piece, or they don't have, it's hard to find a place with all these pieces, or a team of people that you can put together with all these pieces, which is why it can be so difficult to unpack, but possible to transform. And this is why an emotionally abusive relationship is so destructive, because shame is likely to come up whenever our most basic expectations of a significant other are suddenly exposed as wrong. And that is, kind of sums up what a lot of emotional abusers do, is they make it wrong for you to have any expectations of them. So, this creates that shame that I was talking about. To have someone that we value unexpectedly betray our trust opens the self inside us, and it opens kind of a wound that we is really difficult. So we start feeling like, oh, what a fool I was to trust in him again. How stupid am I that I got in this relationship again? Why did I go back? And we get that very familiar self-deprecating reaction. And this is what feeds that loop of why, and then we have really low self-esteem, and we get caught up in the whole, we need to have someone value us and love us. So we reach out again, we're blasted again, back and forth, we go into this dance. So, it really was interesting to me to look at it as a piece that comes up as shame, that shame is something we're going to be ashamed. We're going to have shame come up in our lives. It's a normal experience of being human. However, if it's put on us over and over again without any repair by people that we love and care about, then it becomes this kind of self fulfilling loop within ourselves. And so, like I said, finding someone that you can work with, that you can build this kind of, even a therapist, you build this kind of trusting relationship. Like, they're going to show up, they're going to see me, I can tell them how I feel, they're not going to reject me. We can continue this relationship and work on all of the things, like I said, all these pieces fit together to create something that gives us the possibility of overcoming this kind of shame reaction. I would say for myself that even though I still have these pieces coming up, I've done enough work and I realize what it feels like in my body enough that I can sit with it now, that I know that it's my stuff, that I can understand what it is, and that I can let myself go through the process of feeling it, that I can ask, I have a great partner now, I can ask him for support. I can explain what it is so that I'm not crossing boundaries and saying, why didn't you know that I needed a hug? Why didn't you know? I can ask, I can say, here's what's coming up for me. This is what I need from you. Are you able to do that now? All of these kinds of awarenesses that I've worked with over years have enabled me to not be afraid of being shamed, and it will still come up that I may ask for my need to be met and it isn't met. And sometimes people are just busy, they're incapable of meeting it. And it's no longer about me. I'm just like, you know what? That's something going on for them. I can ask somebody over here. I can get my need met this way. I know myself, so you can't find things in me that I don't know about myself. It may still hurt, it may still sting, but it doesn't have that overwhelming grief, sadness, abandonment thing that I used to get. I can work with it now. I'm not so afraid of myself. And this too is something that we work with in my program, this kind of finding of ourself, and then those abusers don't have any ammunition against us if we know ourselves well. I mean, there'll always be more to uncover, of course, but the more that we know, the more we can move towards this and, unpack our shame with someone. So this is just kind of a overview of one of the things that I think comes in the way of people moving forward with really healthy, intimate relationships. I had a client recently discover that, wow, I thought I was okay with sex and, relationships. But she realized that she, only dated married men, that she was, happy with someone that traveled, that never was around all the time. And she realized that she was creating this kind of safety and not letting people, really into her life. And, I'm not saying that you have to have a partner or you don't. It's not about that. It's about having choice in your life. Do you want to have intimacy with people? Do you want your children to, be intimate with you, whether, if they're grown, or your parents or your friends? It doesn't have to be a judgment about how you want to set up your intimate life, but, do you want to have choice around that? And if you do, I highly recommend booking a breakthrough call with me. Let's talk about what your choices are right now. Like, how can you put yourself first? How can we start unpacking this I'm not good enough, and finally say I'm good enough to actually, invest in myself and work on myself? So, like I said, I offer free breakthrough calls for anyone in this group. Go to www.ailsakeppie.com /apply, APPLY. So www.ailsakeppie.com /apply takes you directly to my calendar. I welcome talking to any one of you. No obligation. We'll just talk about what your choices are and how you make your choices and what you might want in your life moving forward. So thank you so much for watching. My name is Ailsa Keppie, and I'm from Pleasure for Health. That's my overall website, pleasureforhealth.com. You can look up more about me there, and I look forward to connecting with you. Thank you.